Welcome to the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast. We're excited to come to you today with Jeff Harrell, your current NCPA president. Let me remind everyone that the Pharmacy Frontier podcast is available for streaming on your favorite podcast streaming app, whether it be Apple, Podbean, Spotify, or YouTube. The Pharmacy Frontiers podcast is dedicated to the profession of pharmacy, and the comments and opinions shared today are those of our hosts and our guests, are not official statements of the NPA, the NCPA, Mercy, Mitchell Pharmacy, nor Cascadia Pharmacy Group. I'm Daniel Good. I'll serve as your co-host along today with Tim Mitchell of Mitchell Pharmacy. But today we welcome Jeff Harrell, current NCPA president and CEO of the Cascadia Pharmacy Group, and an overall great guy. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me.
Congratulations on your leadership and having a great year here leading NCPA. I imagine they have you on the road quite a bit.
Yeah, no, it's been quite the experience. You know, it takes 14 years to get to be the president. 14 years goes by faster than you think it would. And then you get the opportunity to kind of be the face of pharmacy across the country. And presidents have done as little or as much as they wanted or their schedule permitted. I have the ability, and I'm fortunate, so I don't have to staff or be behind the counter doing all my calls like Mr. Mitchell. And so I've done a little extra this year. So if I were to count up all the miles right now since January, I'm over 150,000 miles in the air.
Oh, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's still more to come.
And this is just NCPA, right? Because you're also doing AAP and Align and the World Pharmacy Conference. You are all over the place.
So all of those are combined. I kind of count them all together. But a lot of times when I'm doing the board work for AAP or Align, if it's a conference or wherever it is, it kind of ties in as NCPA, president as well. I did get to go to the World Pharmacy Council. Doug Hoy and I did, and speak in Australia. Great experience. Even the Prime Minister was there, and I got to speak to several. Well, I don't know if they had 7,800 people there. I don't know how many were in the stadium, but it looked pretty full. It wasn't 7,800. So it was a great experience. Learned a whole bunch about what they're doing. Some things along the lines of there's 7,800. There's 6,000 pharmacies in Australia, and 3,800 of those are guild members. So that would be the equivalent to an NCPA membership. So 6,000, 3,800. Here and they had 7,800 people at their conference. Here we have 19,000, and we can't get more than 3,000 at a max at the conference. And so what it showed me, and it also goes into their reimbursement, is those 3,800 guild pharmacies follow Trent Toomey, who's their CEO, equivalent to Doug Hoy, and they follow him lockstep. If he says jump, they say how high. So the unity of those 3,800 controlling more than 50% of the market in Australia has totally changed how those pharmacies are reimbursed and profitable. And that's the biggest problem that I see here with us is we don't stick together. We don't say no. The unity problem is why we're where we're at today. But no, I got to go to the World Pharmacy Council in Singapore. Sat in a room like the United Nations. We had like 16 different countries we had our flags. We had interpreters. I mean, it was impressive to see that misery likes company sometimes, because every country has their own little problem, I guess. But just a great experience.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Yeah, I think pharmacies in the United States are kind of like, I've heard this so many times, kind of like herding a bunch of cats, and we all kind of go our different directions. And I do think the time has come to follow leaders like you and Doug and individuals that are trying to get us focused on what the problems are and try to fix those issues. And I appreciate you taking all those extra efforts that you've done over the last year to make a difference, for sure. So Jeff, I want to take you back just a little bit, and I want to find out tell me a little bit about your journey. What got you into pharmacy? I mean, way, way back. I remember I saw a picture of you a while back, and I snapshotted it and I sent it to you, and I said, is this really Jeff Harrell? This was like when you were like a little baby. What got you to go to pharmacy school, and was there someone in your life that made you want to become a pharmacist, and why did you start buying pharmacies and becoming, bringing partners in? You've got a massive ability to make a huge difference in the profession, and you are doing it. So tell me about it. I want the secret sauce.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give it to you full throttle from start to finish and as fast as I can. Coming out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was playing basketball. When I got to junior college, I wanted to continue playing basketball, so I went to a junior college. And at junior college, there were three things I was worried about: basketball, women, and partying. And so those three things were really my major for the first couple of years. And then my mom's like, well, what are you going to do? You're at a junior college, you could go for a third year, but they're meant for two. How about pharmacy? And I'll never forget that call. I made that call to Washington State University. A guy by the name of Dana Lowry was the administrator or whomever there at the College of Pharmacy. And then my cousin said, hey, you got to get to know this guy by the name of Keith Campbell. Well, Keith Campbell's, world renowned for diabetes and, lived over 50 years plus, with type 1 diabetes and helped develop the insulin pump and so forth. Keith since passed. I visited Keith and I got into school and just kind of fell in love, with that side of things. I love math and science. And so I got through pharmacy school. Didn't know really what I wanted to do after that. I always thought I wanted to buy a Lincoln Navigator, with the money, and never did that because it didn't, it wasn't as sexy after I graduated, I guess. Went back to work in Long Beach, Washington, on the coast where it all started, and then moved up to Seattle for an opportunity there for Holly Whitcomb Henry, another pioneer in the industry. Her and Mike Henry, I worked for them, and what I really fell in love with. Yeah, what I really fell in love with was the business side of things. And back then you could actually negotiate a contract a little bit. And so I kind of fell in love, and she put a bonus structure in, and I hit every tier every time. So I really kind of fell in love with all of those aspects of it. In 2006, I had an opportunity to go back to Long Beach, where I was from, Long Beach, Washington, on the coast of Washington State, and buy into a 3-store chain, Peninsula Pharmacy. And that was in 2006. And then after that, in 2008, we bought another pharmacy in our county, and then 11, about another. And then it just kind of, we got to about 6 or 7. What'd you say?
I said it just snowballed. Sounds like
it did, but the snowball stayed still manageable. And so we sat at 6 or 7 for a while, and then, I had a couple interns, and come out and do rotations. And then Eric Nelson, who's one of my top partners right now in Spokane, he was looking for a small store, and I said, hey, why don't you buy it with us? You'd get all our buying power, because every time we added a store, I saw my cost of goods go down.
Sure.
And I started to go, well, wait a second. And so every time you got a little bigger and you're moving a little more and buying a little more, things got a little better on the buy side, the cost side. And so I was just like, well, geez, why stop here? Why not build this out? And it just kind of happened, a little bit organically. And then I had a daughter that gets sick in 2018. And we had to go through a lot of hospital treatments and things for about 18 months. And so I was cooped up in a condo in Portland, Oregon, and, kind of just started looking for these different pharmacies and partnerships with people that I knew. And I was working on a deal at the time she got sick with another, my big partners, Will and Courtney Quimby, who are, key partners and kind of founding members, so to speak. And then it just grew, to like 10 or 12. And then I realized if I didn't get out from dispensing, I was going to hurt somebody, because I was still dispensing, working for full time. And I was so busy. I had the cell phone here, the other phone here, trying to type here if I need, and so I said, hey, I got to get out of dispensing. And once I started working on the business instead of in the business, you want to talk about snowball? There it goes. It was the first ball for Frosty the Snowman. It was the base for the snowman. And after that, we grew. But different, with a lot of the same partners, but just people reaching out to me and good quality people, that we wanted to partner with. And then it seems like it's been forever, but it's been a little over a year that we formed Cascadia Pharmacy Group. So the management company we carved out moved all the employees into that. and as of today, we're at 43 locations in four states. Yeah, and so we have 20 to 25 in the pipeline at various stages right now, and my partners are all on board, ready to grow. So that's everything in a quick snapshot. And the management company, Cascadia Pharmacy Group, handles really the back end for all the stores. Allows the pharmacist, the pharmacy partner, the manager, the PIC to be what they are, and that's an ambassador to the community as a pharmacist, to give the healthcare that they need, to give the community the pharmacy services they need, and not have to worry about all the BS of payroll and accounts payable, receivable, HR. I mean, HR right now is a nightmare, right? I mean, you work all day, Tim, then you go home and you got to do payroll, and if there's a mistake, you got to clean that up. And so we took all that off their plate, and then the stores are under a management agreement, and we handle all of that: IT, marketing, got a controller, finance stuff, and so far so good, guys. I guess I need to knock on wood.
Yeah. Well, are we going to keep growing, or is it
we're growing. Yeah, okay. we just added actually two. We bid on a couple Rite Aids in this bankruptcy, and I did it really just to learn. I've never done the bid process, and I had to log in and get in on the docket, court-wise, and it was really quite boring, to be honest. I thought it would be a lot more exciting. And really kind of a discombobulated mess, which I guess doesn't surprise us, with the whole Rite Aid debacle. But we ended up with a store in California,
cool.
Northern California, right on the border there of Oregon. I know, Daniel. I'm doing the same thing. I'm like, why California? But I will be completely honest. As bad as I've heard California can be, the state of California, the licensing of the pharmacies, Medi-Cal has been nothing but open arms and help me get this store open. Because what's ironic is in California, most of those Rite Aids did not get bid on and bought, and so they had to close. And I think it's left some major gaps in California, and they realize that. And so I have to say they've been superb with expediting things in a time of unprecedented times, with Rite Aid closure. So yeah, but Tim, we have 2 or 3 more. One will close probably end of August, and we'll probably close out about 3 to 5 more before the end of the year.
That's amazing. That's very encouraging in this profession as well. So
yeah,
it is very encouraging, because like the rest of the country, these independents are all closing down, and I have family in the Everett and the Marysville area up there in Washington. I can't even find an independent pharmacy to serve my sisters. So I'm thinking I need to send her down to your place there at the north end of the lake or something.
Yeah, we've got some places, in Bothell and in those areas. So we are coming a little bit probably closer to you, but I can't talk about that one. So
no.
yeah. But I'll tell you what it is. It is the scale. We've been able to master, adding stores and with the team at Cascadia, fantastic group. Added a couple pharmacists, Tara Fund and Crystal Bryan, that have been just phenomenal in our growth and helping and knowledgeable. And then just the willingness of these sellers to kind of, let us drive the boat. So we've been able to move pretty quickly, pretty nimbly. Nimbly, is that a word?
No, I like that word. I've used that word before.
Yeah, and it's really worked out. And the creativeness of the financing of it and getting the deal done is what I thrive on. I really love that. There's not one recipe. Every single seller has a different need, story, situation, and every buyer, because it depends on different partners and cash flow and different things. And so the deal is what I love, and really that's. It's probably good I'm an NCPA president this year, or we probably would have added a bunch more stores and my team would have quit.
So are you able to actually translate this local success to a national level? It just seems like being NCPA president, everybody's looking to you for kind of a role model. Are you able to translate that, or at least inspire some of these young kids coming out of school to say, yes, I could do the same thing?
Or some
No,
of us old guys. Some of us
yeah,
old guys too.
I hope so. We talk a lot about what we're doing, and I talk, at different conventions and different CEs, and then share our ideas. One of the things I really wanted to do, and I realized that in the College of Pharmacies, community pharmacy is not talked about in a very good light, or if it's talked about at all. And and I hit, oh God, what I hit, like 7 pharmacies in 10 days here in the spring, and met with hundreds of students. And if the faculty and the leadership in academia isn't familiar with independent community pharmacy, then these kids or students aren't really getting much of a flavor of what we do. Everybody uses the word ambulatory care, AM care. We do that every day. I mean, we started a pharmacy with that. We do it every day. We do it probably more than institutionals and hospitals and clinical settings. We do that all the time, and we want to grow that. And that's one of the focuses at Cascadia, is to figure out this clinical services, to figure out, to get credentialed, to get contract, to bill, and then to be able to follow the revenue cycle management of that. And I think that, Daniel, is the big thing that we're going to help roll out, is with Tara and stuff. We're pretty close to having this dialed in, and we'll be able to share that with others to help them get those services going, to get paid properly for those services, and then to manage the billing and the money coming back in.
Very cool.
Well, I'm talking like what you were talking about on the making this a bigger picture for everyone. I think that the difference between you and some other store owners that I've met, and I'm not naming anybody, but over the years, a lot of people, when they find something that works, they just want to say, this is my area and I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to share it with anybody because this is what I am really good at, and it's successful for me, and it's going to make me look good, and I'm going to be successful. Your measure of success is we're doing it, and we're going to tell everybody about it. And I know the first time I met you, you're like, let me show you what I'm doing. Let me show you how to do it. This is what I recommend. And I don't remember what we were talking about, but I was like, wow, this guy's really sharing. And I appreciate that about you. And I think if community pharmacies or pharmacy owners would do more of that and collaborate with each other, I think that those walls will come down and people will trust each other better and be able to work together in collaboration to be successful. So kind of like going back to what you were talking about in Australia and, wherever you were at before, I think those guys are all working together. So
it's been, that's an Achilles heel of us, Tim, you're spot on, is we keep everything so tight. I mean, even the money and the finance side of it, right? So these students, don't think they can make money in our industry, and you can still. I mean, obviously reimbursement is troubling, and the trends aren't great. But if you're running your business like a watch, and you're running it like a business, I mean, you have to run your pharmacy like a business, and if you don't, you're going to be in trouble. It's still pretty good, and so I don't mind sharing numbers and dollars, and then we share the ideas, because if I can improve the quality of community pharmacy across the nation, then I can go to bat for everybody, or myself specifically, and ask to be paid better. I mean, we are a premium product. We go to school for 6 or 7 years. We pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're trained, to the nth degree. We have services and training and knowledge. I mean, we are primary care in a lot of these communities where primary care is left. We are a premium product. There's nothing that's better than us in our space. And when you go to the gas station and you fill your car with premium, do you expect to pay more money?
Absolutely.
When you go buy a steak at your butcher and you get prime, do you expect to pay more money?
Or Wagyu? Yeah.
Or
absolutely.
Wagyu. We are prime. We are a premium product. This critical access cap designation is starting to kind of get some teeth, which basically identifies pharmacies that are doing critical access things. Well, it's everything that independent pharmacy's been doing for years. And so if you get that designation, you can get maybe some rural rates or some better rates on your premium service. So, we like to hold everything, but we really need to shout it from the rooftops. Absolutely. We need to open up the trench coat and show them what's underneath, right? Either we don't have clothes on, or we got watches on both arms that we're trying to sell. Whatever's under the trench coat, let's show it. and show how premium we are, and then make them understand that the services that we can do for the payers, that we can increase their revenue, 5x, 3x, 2x on improving their quality scores, and then share in that pie, and the circle will be, the money will handle itself when we were able to get that partnership and connect that continuity of care. So that's really, one of my big pushes is, we are a premium product.
Totally agree. I want to do a follow-up, and, looking into the future, you kind of already said this, but looking into the future, and like what Daniel was saying, talking to students and younger pharmacists that are just getting out of school, where do you see the future? What kind of advice would you give students? I mean, you've been talking to a lot of students. What kind of advice would you give these students about what kind of things they need to focus on? What kind of things, I mean, is it the clinical side of things? Is it the business side of things? Is it both? Where do you think people need to be focusing? I mean, you've touched on a lot of stuff already.
I think they need to understand what's their passion. What are they wanting to do post-graduation? And I think they need to expose themselves to everything, right? So make sure that you're doing a community pharmacy residency, not residency, block
Fellowship.
or your fellowship, or a block or
rotation.
Rotation, or even if you're doing some intern hours, whatever, get a flavor for it, because oftentimes they've never stepped foot in. A lot of the rotations are done at chains, because there aren't independents around certain colleges, and so they don't get that flavor. And if they like community pharmacy, and if they're interested in business, they need to take some business classes. You need to understand a P&L and balance sheet. You need to understand what cost of goods are. You need to understand what profit margin is, net profit versus gross profit versus revenue per script. You need to understand how to figure out those key indicators, and so I recommend a business class. Whether you take it while you're in college or you do it after you graduate, take a simple business class and understand the back end workings of the machine.
Totally agree on that. Totally agree. So, I don't mean to take up all the questions here, but I just, things are just rolling off my head. So, believe it or not, we're kind of winding the podcast down. It seemed like we just got started, man.
We did.
We're gonna do part one.
I'm gonna have to go do push-ups. I'm getting so excited. I got to burn off some of this steam.
So, and I didn't prep you on this. So at the toward the end of each podcast, we try to talk to our guests about, or ask our guests, I should say, about if you could share something with all of our listeners that about you that maybe not everybody knows, that may be an interesting fact. It could be a hobby or whatever. What would that be?
Well,
it's got to be G-rated here now. G-rated.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm super into collecting bourbon, which is something I kind of hobbied up a couple years ago. So I love that. I do dress as Gene Simmons, and I wear 6-inch platform, so it puts me at just under 7 foot, 6'11".
That's a pretty interesting thing right there.
That is pretty interesting.
I
will tell you something. I mean, this is not something that people would know about me or don't know about me, but today I realized that I'm not immortal when I woke up and found out that my Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, died today.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like the guy that I grew up with, and the immortal Hulk Hogan, and it just took me back, and the great American hero, and the Hulkster, and all of that. That was
sad day.
It was a sad day. I guess Ozzy was yesterday or the day before, or Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah. So, but I would probably say that Gene Simmons, full costume, full makeup, tongue, and 6-inch platform.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see that at the next conference or something, man. I know you've done it before, but and I know it's a lot of work. How long does it take you to get into costume?
About an hour and a half for the makeup, and then I could get into costume pretty quickly. If you want me really into character, not costume, then I need to have a few drinks while we're putting the makeup on.
goodness. Well,
That is great.
Daniel, do you have anything to follow up, and then we'll close it out?
I guess we just need to ask Jeff if he's willing to come back and be a guest on our show here later after his presidential year, so we can kind of get that whole journey, the before, during, after, so he can kind of give us kind of a postmortem on his experience there. That would be great to have him come back.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. Anything I could do to help support, community pharmacy and yeah, I'll have a little more time. I'll tell you that. The travel will subside a bit.
Well, we've been trying to schedule this podcast for the last 3 months.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm actually down in Arizona right now. I flew here last night, and then I'll jump over to. I got six trips in 6 weeks. I go down over to Vegas tomorrow, Albuquerque Sunday, then I go to Orange County, South Dakota, Washington, D.C., all before the 20th of August.
And I'll bet you've probably felt like you've lived in Washington, D.C. this year, or over the last few years, because of all the stuff that we have to do in D.C. But what important work you do for the profession. And I very much appreciate all the efforts you've done. And we really appreciate you being on today. And we look forward to having you again sometime real soon. So
appreciate it, guys. Good to see everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. Daniel, you want to close
Jeff.
out?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you being here. Your leadership has been amazing, both locally and nationally and internationally. The difference you've made in pharmacy will be lasting to identify pharmacy as a premier profession, and we sincerely appreciate that. And to our new listeners on the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast, thanks for joining us, and please share this podcast with your friends, and seek out previous Pharmacy Frontier podcasts on your favorite podcasting channel. And until next time, remember, it's a good day to be in pharmacy.